Growing a small business is exciting, but it can also get confusing fast when the numbers start pulling you in different directions. Robinson Aquino, CEO of JBS Corp. And author of The Small Business Money Game, created this book to help business owners better understand their finances, spot the growth plateaus before they become roadblocks, and make smarter decisions as they scale. To celebrate the launch, Robinson is giving away free copies of his brand new book. Want one? Go to thecovertcode.com to learn more.
Aloha, my name is Anna Covert, and I'm coming to you from my battleship here on the beautiful island of Oahu. This week on the Covert Code, the topic is selling your business in style, and my very special guest is Marty Fahncke. He is a business investor, a growth strategist, a certified merger and acquisition advisor with Westbound Road LLC. He also has 30 years of experience as a marketer, helping companies grow, scale, and eventually sell at top. In fact, he's worked with hundreds of companies and achieved over $1 billion in revenue, as well as been personally involved in over $500 million in mergers and acquisitions, making him a true expert in the space. In his Amazon best-selling book, Boomers Sell the Business, he outlines practical strategies that any business owner can go through to help increase the value of their company now, before, and during an acquisition, as well as talk about transition planning and other factors that can influence your ability to sell. So thanks so much for being here today, Marty.
Thanks, Anna, for having me here. I'm super excited to talk about these things, and just I've listened to a couple episodes of your podcast, and you really extract some great information from your guests, and I'm looking forward to sharing some good stuff with you.
Thank you very much. And before we get started, if you have not yet done so, please, and you love this podcast, please subscribe. We just hit 200,000 subscribers, and it's because of you and your aloha. So if you like it, subscribe so I can get more great guests like Marty, and let's dive right in. So Marty, we like to begin, as you've heard, with a Cliff Notes version of the Marty story. So, what's important for how you got to where you were to where you are today?
Yeah. So as you mentioned, I've been in marketing for many years, for most of my career. I've had some really big successes in that time here and there. But about 26 years ago, I had partnered with a couple of guys. I was the marketing guy. The other one was the operations guy, and the other one was kind of the everything else guy. And the three of us started a little business, and we about 18 months after we started the business, we got an offer for $1.5 million cash for our business. Wow. And we thought we were the smartest guys in the world for that. And so we sold our business. And I later learned that we may have made a mistake. Like we thought we were really smart, but at the time I didn't know who was buying the business. I didn't know why they were buying the business, and I didn't know to negotiate maybe a little bit different structure to the deal we did. Later on, as I look back, I realized we left somewhere around $24 million on the table with that deal.
Wow.
So, but I didn't know what I didn't know. Fast forward a couple of years, and I was on the other side. I started one of the earliest e-commerce businesses, and this was in the year 2001. And I had a competitor in our particular space, and they were kind of getting in my way in different places and kind of driving me crazy. And my CEO said, "Well, why don't you go buy them?" And I said, "I don't even know what that looks like." And he goes, "Just call them up, see if they want to sell." So I did. They did. And we took our business, which was at that time doing about $1.5 million a year, and we bought their business, which at that time was doing about $2 million a year, and we put the two businesses together. So we took the $3.5 million in revenue, we merged those companies, and on the strengths of that merger, you want to take a guess what we did in the second year after that merger in revenue?
20 million.
Oh man, you're about the closest anybody's ever come. $30 million.
Okay, yeah.
In the second year, and a lot of people guess, well, 3.5. Maybe you did 5. Maybe you did 6.
I actually was good. I should have trusted my. I thought it was good. I was going to say 30. Actually.
Oh, and if you'd have nailed, you would have been the only person that's ever gotten it right off the bat. That would have been fantastic. But I learned that day about the power of strategic acquisitions, and that 1 and 1 doesn't make 2. 1 and 1 can make 11 if you do it right. And I've been hooked on growth through acquisition ever since, and I've helped hundreds of companies do the same thing, and that's part of what leads us here today. So hopefully that's a good Cliff Notes.
I love that. That's a great story. So, and people always ask me this about my book, so I'm going to ask you, what made you know that this was time, or it was time to write this book? And I know you have a co-author here, Frank. as well. So tell me about, your
I've
book
been
journey.
wanting to write a book for 20 years, or more than 20 years. And I've had different ideas for books, and I've started different books, and I've never finished one. What happened is, let's fast forward from the original story of how I got started. And then I've worked with, again, thousands of acquisitions transactions over the years. And I was seeing a trend continually with business owners who had no exit plan for their business because they didn't plan to sell their business. They didn't think about selling their business. And then something happened that forced them to sell their business. And people, business owners don't always have contingency plans. And so I kind of put those into a category called 5 Ds and a B. And the 5 Ds are divorce, disease, death, debt, disagreements usually with your partnership, and the B is burnout. And here's the thing, 100% of every business owner will exit their business someday in some way. And yet
Yes.
a tiny minority of them actually prepare for that. And I started getting calls from business owners who, had cancer and couldn't operate their business anymore and had to sell it, and it was unprepared, or a spouse died and they thought their business was worth a couple $1 million and it was worth a couple $1,000. And story after story after story started happening when I started getting more into advisory and helping others. And it just broke my heart. And I said, I have got to figure out a way to make sure that business owners don't get caught flat-footed and they're prepared when the time comes. And so I wrote the book, Boomer Sells the Business, a step-by-step guide to cashing out and living large, in hopes of reaching those business owners. Now, don't let that name fool you. It's really a book for any business owner of any age or any generation. But really, I put the Boomer name on there because that's who I was getting the most. Like, if you're older and you are a business owner and you haven't prepared your business for exit and you're forced to exit, that may be it. You may not have a chance to redo it. If you're 25 and your business goes bankrupt, you go start another one. Like, it may be hard and devastating, but it's not life altering usually. And so I really wanted to focus on those older business owners to make sure that they have the information they need to understand what they should do, how to do it, why to do it, and have the tools that they need to successfully exit their business to take care of themselves, their family, their legacy, etc. So that's kind of what happened is literally tier after tier on calls with business owners that were in a bad place.
Wow. Yeah. That's not similar to my story, but people were crying, and then I was like, someone has to do something about this, this digital fraud. But, so I've done some little work in exit planning myself with, I did some advertising for Exit Planner. And what I learned I thought was really interesting is that really, I want to see if you agree, this was years ago, that you really need to start planning 3 years in advance, at least. 3 is like a magic number.
100% agree. 110%
because
agree.
then there's tax implications. You need to be setting up for, so you can get the most value. So is that still the case today?
100%. Yeah, it is totally the case, because most acquisitions, if somebody's going to buy your business, and especially if they're going to buy your business with a loan, a bank loan or an SBA loan, there's a 3-year look back. And so that means that for the last 3 years, all your financials, all your bank statements and all your tax returns, they all have to be in order. And if they're not, then it's going to impact your ability to sell your business. And so 3 years in advance is absolutely what we recommend for any business owner. But the other thing that we recommend is, even if you never plan to sell your business, if you, I don't plan to sell for 10 years, so I don't need to even think about any of this stuff. Here's the thing. If you do all the steps necessary to get your business in order, if your financials are clean, if you have a business operating system in place, if you've gone through the stages of the owner exit, which we can talk about, if you're you're focusing on profit and on tax mitigation, like a lot of things, all the things you need to do to have your business really perfect for somebody to buy it, guess what? That's a business that's a joy to own. Because if you have your business in shape, then you're working less and making more, And that's the kind of business somebody would want to buy. And that's the kind of business you should want to own. So you should do it anyway. Whether you ever plan to sell or not, you should have your business in shape. Sometimes I reference real estate house selling because most everybody sold a house. Very few people have sold a business, but most people have sold a house. You decide you want to sell a house and you hire a broker and they come in and say, well, we need to stage it. So we're going to declutter, we're going to paint, we're going to do some carpet, we're going to do this and that, maybe some landscaping. And then on the open house, we're going to bake chocolate chip cookies so it smells wonderful when somebody walks in, right? That's staging a house for sale. Well, guess what? You can stage a business for sale. And wouldn't you rather live in a house that's already been all cleaned up and staged? Or wouldn't you rather own a business that's been all cleaned up and staged? So that's why we recommend it for sure.
Absolutely. In Hawaii, there's a term called stay ready.
Okay.
You're staying ready, like you're always in prepared mode, right?
Exactly.
Ready.
You don't know if you have to go inland or
right. Or if you're like surfing or whatnot, not that I'm a big surfer, but you go practice so you can stay ready for when the big waves come. You're not going to just be like, oh, now you're going to start big wave surfing. No, you have to stay ready to, for all.
Exactly. Stay ready. I love it.
Yeah. Yes. So that's really fascinating. Well, why don't you talk us through some of these steps that a business owner can go through? I think this is fast. Great tips.
Yeah, happy to. So a couple of steps. So number one, and most important probably, is having your financials in order. Many businesses their finances are a mess, and especially smaller businesses. Your P&Ls aren't accurate. You've got personal expenses that are coming out that probably shouldn't be there. Your balance sheets are off. Obviously, a lot of times the financials is kind of the last thing you think about. So making sure that your financials are in order, they are GAAP, generally accepted accounting principles, and that everything matches from your cash flow or profit and loss statements to your bank statements to your tax returns. All of that should match, because if it doesn't and you ever do go to sell, a buyer or a lender is going to have red flags about why the numbers don't match. Sure. So having your financials in order is very important. Next, we talk about having an operating system for your business. This is really important. So when I say an operating system, I'm not talking about software. People always think, operating system.
Microsoft, exactly.
Yeah, it doesn't have
Microsoft, but we got to
exactly. Yeah. So, well, we have, we use whatever. So an operating system can be in printed form, it can be online, it can be any number of ways. But really, what an operating system is it's all of the things necessary to run your business effectively and efficiently. If you decided to go buy a McDonald's franchise and you pay your multi-millions of dollars to get the franchise, you're going to get you're going to go to McDonald's University, and they're going to give you an operating system. And the operating system has everything from how to buy the real estate to how to, the color of the tiles on the roof of your McDonald's, everything, once the building is built, how to hire your staff, how to cook a hamburger, how to clean the toilets. Every single aspect of owning a McDonald's franchise has a system and a process already documented. That is all the operating system. And your business should be the same. Now, maybe it's not going to be as robust as McDonald's. They've had 60 years to do it. But you should at least have a system that allows your team to operate your business effectively and efficiently without you having to be the bottleneck or the decision maker on every single thing that happens. Which leads us to the third thing we talk about in preparing your business for sale, and that is the stages of the owner exit. A business that is owner operated and everything comes through the owner is a business that has very little value, because you as the person are the business. You need to exit from your business. And when I say exit, I'm not necessarily talking about the sell. That's the final exit, but there's other exits. So the first exit you as an owner should have is exiting from the front line. So let's use an example. Let's say you're a plumber. You have a plumbing business, and you're out there actually, going to homes and fixing leaky pipes and doing whatever. Your first exit is exiting that front line. You should not be the plumber out there doing the work. You should be hiring good, well-qualified plumbers and managing them. And so you exit that front line. That's the first step. Then the next exit is exiting yourself from the management. Then you hire, a good chief operating officer or a general manager. You've got, appointment setters. You've got a finance person that's handling the money, et cetera. And you take yourself up and you exit the management. So that's the second exit. And then the next exit from there, and once you do that, then you're starting to work on more strategic things. You're looking at, you're going out and you're doing deals with maybe large contractors that are doing developments so that you can handle all the plumbing for those developments. And you're doing much bigger things than turning a wrench, right?
Right.
And then the last step is exiting the org chart completely, where you have the people on the front line, you have management, and you have strategic. Maybe you hired a president or a chief operating officer, and you're able to step back and maybe you're completely out of the business, but it's running really well, and it's generating good income, and everything's going well, and you're just the CEO or the chairman. And then the last exit is the one people think of, which is I'm selling the business and taking the money. So there's actually 4 exits before you get to the big exit, and so you need to think about each of those steps as you're going through the process. And as you as the owner achieves each of those levels, your business becomes more and more valuable. So those are just a couple of things. We have lots of other things.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's just being a business owner. Yeah, it's so interesting because you can get, a couple steps ahead, and then you can get a couple steps behind, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like, as I'll give you an example, like I'm in the, very involved in the solar industry, and
Mm-hmm.
you may or may not know, but the tax credits were expired. So everything was going up, 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 up. And then this year has been like a crash, right? Because there's a tax credit. So it's like, growth, 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 growth. And then all your clients are going bankrupt, I mean, but I mean, I laugh about it, but it's not funny. I mean, but that's why it's called the solar coaster. I wrote a book about the solar coaster because it goes up and down, right? But so what are your advice to business owners out there who may be taking these steps and things are going great, and then all of a sudden something happens that causes them to have to adjust? I mean, is that why you start early so you can course correct?
That is why you start early, and then and have that expectation. I love that name, solar coaster. That's brilliant, because I just described it very linear, right? Like you do this, and then you do this, and you do this, and you do this, and you keep progressing up like a staircase. We all know, like you've seen the memes, like it's a bowl of spaghetti. The line is,
Yeah.
You go back here, and then you go up here. You're
like the labyrinth with David Bowie when he's like, wait,
exactly,
yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
So obviously it's not always linear. Business is not always linear, and you have those setbacks and you have those obstacles and hurdles, and that's part of what being an entrepreneur is overcoming obstacles, because there very few businesses are just smooth sailing all the time. And so preparing earlier rather than later is a good thing, because that gives you more runway to do the things that you want to do. Having that tenacity and that that can-do spirit, that when you have a setback and things go tough, and I mean, I've had it. I just had something recently, actually. One of my frontline people, not long story, but she didn't show up for work one day, and guess who was keying in inquiries into our database? I was. Is that my job? No, it's not my job. Has that been my job for a long time? No, it hasn't. But did it need to be done? Yep. And the person who was supposed to do it, I didn't do it. So here I am, I'm sitting here talking about getting off the front line, and I'm in keying in inquiries, which is a very frontline job. So, sometimes you have to, and you've got to be flexible, and you've got to be positive to continue overcoming those obstacles and continue to be successful. But, because it is a roller coaster or a solar coaster in your world. So that's awesome.
Indeed. So tell me, about, I guess so what do you think that are some of the more I guess let me back this up. So I always hear a lot of people talk about, some of the shortcomings or fears of selling, that, I got an offer. I'll tell you one that I heard recently. I got an offer, but they want me to, basically work for them, be the CEO for like 5 years. Mm-hmm. Or, so are there any red flags? Are there things people should be on the lookout for when, deciding to sell their business that may seem like a great decision, but the next things after that may not be advantageous?
Yeah, absolutely. There's a couple of things there with that question. So, first of all, in my experience, successful entrepreneurs make lousy employees. So, when people are entertaining those offers, and it's 5 years, I got to work for the buyer, I don't usually advise that you do a deal like that. 2 years seems to be as long as I see most entrepreneurs being able to have a boss. But the other thing is part of the steps of preparing, and I could go through my entire checklist if you want, but we'll kind of refer back to him as other questions. Part of my checklist of preparation is not just financial. Okay, there's other elements to exiting a business. There's psychological, and there's spiritual. Okay. And there's lots of things that have to, because many people have their identity wrapped up into their business, especially older people, right? And so referencing you like books. And so I'm going to reference a book that was very influential in my life 30 something years ago, which was The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen Covey. One of those habits is begin with the end in mind. Okay. So I'm very much a believer in that when we work with our clients, say, what is it that you want to have happen if you exit your business? Are you wanting to travel the world? Do you want to fund college educations? Do you want to do something in philanthropy? Like, what is the ultimate outcome and goal that you want to see happen? And then craft that so that if that's what you're open to and you're not open to something over here, then that's the type of buyer we'll find and the type of offer we'll accept. Letting the market dictate what kind of offers you get isn't as good, because you get an offer, you go, I don't really want to do that. And then you've wasted a bunch of time, right? Put out there and say, this is what I want. I want I want a complete exit and walk away. I want to do something strategic so that I can do another 5 years, but I want a private equity firm to back me up so that I can take this to 100 million instead of 20 million, or whatever that looks like. Have that determined in advance. And that way, the type of offer you're going to get is going to match what you want versus an offer coming in and you go, I don't know if I want that or not, right? Be thinking about these things well in advance.
That's a great tip. What's another way people can increase the value of their business before sale that you think are easy?
Oh my gosh, there's so many different ones. That operating system thing that I mentioned, is very important. The difference between a business that has an operating system in place and a business where everybody, including the owner, is flying by the seat of their pants is a big difference in evaluation. Something else to think about, and this really goes back to that 3-year thing that you talked about that's so brilliant, is to focus on profit maximization, not tax mitigation. And here's what I mean by that. Many business owners come to me and they're like, oh yeah, I did a couple $1 million in revenue, but we've done all these things to mitigate all our taxes. So I show no profit on the bottom line. And so I haven't had to pay hardly any taxes. Well, here's the problem with that. Most businesses are valued on a multiple of profit. So if you have a high top line, but you've done all these things to minimize your profit that's actually showing on your tax returns, you've devalued your business substantially. And here's the math behind that most owners don't think about, okay? You save $1 in taxes, and if your company's paying 20% in taxes, okay, you save $1 in profit, okay, through whatever it is you're doing up here, the accounting voodoo, and then you're taxed on that at 20 cents. So you're saving 20 cents in taxes. Okay. But if you have a business that in your sector is a 5 times multiple, meaning you're going to get 5 times for every dollar you make in profit, you are sacrificing $5 in valuation to save 20 cents on that same dollar.
Wow.
Okay. And owners don't think about that many times. As they come to us and they've manipulated their taxes and then they're ready to sell. And we're like, you've left hundreds of thousands or even millions of dollars on the table by doing it the way you're doing it. So especially if you know, now mitigating your taxes, absolutely should do if you're not planning on selling at all. Yeah, don't give any more than you have to. But if you have an inkling that you are going to sell in the next 3 or 4 years, you need to be calling up your accounting people and saying, all right, stop with the tax mitigation efforts. Let's focus on profit maximization. And there are millions of dollars at stake there in many businesses.
Wow. That's a great tip.
Thank you.
That's a real shocker. I mean, and it's almost like a game too, the tax game. And that's what many people, one of my games that I've been playing for a long time is that I'm an LLC that opts to be taxed like an S Corp.
Mm-hmm.
So then you can pay yourself a reasonable salary, whatever that means, right? And it's who knows what that really means. And then you can give yourself bonuses that you save some tax on. But all those things, they add up.
Right. And they impact the bottom line and how it's reported on your financials. And when a buyer's looking at it, what does it look like? Does it look like a very profitable business, or does it look like a not profitable business because you're kind of funneling money over here type of a thing? Right. And so that's why you've got to work with your tax professional, and they'll do what you want them to do. But most business owners don't think to give them to that direction and say, oh, you know what? I'm thinking about selling my business. Let's switch our thought processes.
Right. Well, it's not like a natural thing that you want to pay more taxes. It's like death and taxes. You're like, no, to either. Right. You don't want to die and you don't want to pay taxes. I mean, it's just like a common no-brainer.
Yeah. And you want to save 20 cents, great, but you're leaving $5 on the table. Why would you do that? So
that's a lot of money.
It is.
So what are the, so I know there's succession planning, you can start your family. What are the types of ways people can pass on their company? I mean, I know there's sale we talked about, but there's other ways. You want to talk about some of those?
Yeah, sure. So, well, let's start with sell because most people think of that. So, obviously, that is selling your business to someone else, and sometimes that means you go with the business for some period of time. Sometimes it means you don't. But there's also partial sales. Selling your business doesn't have to mean 100%. You could sell the majority of your business, or you could sell the minority of your business, and there's buyers there for each of those. So a lot of times, if you put up your business for sale and you know that the buyer has the capacity to really grow your business, let's say they're doing a roll up and they're doing something strategic, and they might have the ability to 10x the size of your business after they take it over. Maybe you don't sell it all to them. Maybe you keep 20% of it so that 20% 10x's and you make more on the second sell than you do the first sell, right? So selling your business is definitely one way to exit it, and selling all or part of it are different options. Some other options, obviously, it's more and more rare these days, but sometimes you do pass it on to a family member or a kids or something like that in the next generation. You're seeing less and less of that these days, but that can be a thing. You may exit it to your employees. A lot of times we work with a number of people that are managed buyouts, basically the top people at the company or the business, especially a business that's already kind of operating really well and the owner's not all that involved. You already have a general manager, you already have, finance person and vice president of this and that and the other thing. A lot of times, they have a good enough relationship that the owner's like, I'm going to let them know that I'm interested in selling, and I'm going to give them the first shot. Now that's can be very dangerous, because if they don't want it, then they're going to start looking for another job. But there's situations where that can make sense to do a management buyout. You can do an ESOP, which is an employee stock ownership plan, which is where you could open up every employee at the company could buy the business and they could all be a part of it, right? So that's an option as well. So there's a number of options, and you can get very creative to accomplish your goals. And again, it begin with the end in mind. What is it you want to have happen? And not always just financial. So it can be legacy, it could be family, it could be friends, it could be your employees, and what's important to you. We just did a transaction not too long ago with an interior design firm who, she had 7, 8, 9 employees. I can't remember, somewhere in there. And that was the most important thing to her, was that the person who buys her business needed to preserve the legacy of the business and guarantee they were going to preserve the team. And we wound up selling the business for a little bit less money than because another offer came in that was higher, but they wouldn't agree to that. They wouldn't agree to, well, I don't know if I'm going to keep them or not, kind of a thing. And the one person who took it, and so she was willing to take less money to make sure that her legacy was preserved. And it's happened. That's what, we found the right buyer who agreed to that, and everything's been great. And so again, you've got to think about what's important to you as you're deciding how to craft an exit for your business.
Yeah. So let's talk about that. I think especially now, I'm thinking about like the life after the business, because that really is, I think, very, very interesting. Right. People don't, there's always this dream that you're going to sell and then, but, then there's sometimes emptiness. And I almost want to even relate it back to people now being pushed out of business because of AI and other things that they didn't have the intention. Like, for example, truck drivers. I mean, that we're not there yet, but they're one of the ones that I think about, right? Because they're so proud, and, you're a truck driver and you're like, I mean, it's like a whole thing, right? It's a whole industry. And, what happens if all of a sudden now they're all automated? Where's the identity of that person, or any business? I mean, there's so many different ones being touched by AI, and what's next is still the question that I think that we could even relate to just people who are listening in general, even if they're not selling their business, but maybe they're being displaced. So what guidance can you give on how to handle such a rebranding of oneself?
Yeah. And that's a great question. And it's kind of what I was talking about. Like, an exit isn't always financial. It can be emotional. It can be spiritual. It can be a lot of things that impact what you're doing. And so, yeah, you need to look at your business, and category you're in. It's funny, you talk about truck drivers and people are like, well, where would truck drive? We're not that far from that being automated, right? Like automatic, autonomous cars are already a thing, and they're getting better and better every day, and that time could come.
They can drive 24/7 and no one gets injured.
Right. Nobody sleeps.
Yeah. And no one's falling asleep at the wheel. And I mean, it makes it a pretty easy win. I
saw a quote the other day. It was something, I'm going to paraphrase it, but it was basically, many people will lose their jobs to AI, but the ones who won't are going to learn how to use AI effectively, right? So AI is going to impact just about every job out there, every business out there. You need to be thinking ahead of what those impacts could be. And that's just a good example of why you may consider selling part of your business. Maybe if you're, you don't understand this AI thing or whatever, you don't even see how it might impact your business. Maybe there's somebody out there who's really on the cutting edge, and they have a way of coming and say, this is what's going to happen to your business. This is how we can get ahead of it and leverage this instead of being a victim to it. And maybe they take a 10% of your business or 20% of your business in exchange in equity for making that happen. So we see those types of deals. Those are called earn-ins, by the way. It's where somebody earns in a percentage of their business and our partial acquisition of their business by providing value and service to make it happen. And so that's a consideration that somebody may think about. But as far as, again, back to beginning with the end in mind, back to thinking about what's best for you and just planning it and just thinking about it's really interesting to me just saying, think about what's next. The reality is 80-90% of business owners, that's revolutionary in and of itself. They're so head down focused on just, day-to-day survival that a lot of times they aren't thinking about what's next. So just even having this conversation and if your listeners are hearing it, hopefully their wheels are starting to turn like, man, I really haven't even thought about this. Maybe I should get, and then, talking to advisors, talking to, your professional, who do you get advice from and who do you talk to? And I always say that, everybody, you need to have a financial advisor, you need to have a legal advisor, but maybe have a strategic advisor that's, talking about what's next for your business and whether that's, strategic, whether that's exit, whether that's something else. You should be opening your eyes, pull your head up out of the weeds and just start considering it. And that'll put you ahead of most business owners.
Yeah, I think that's definitely good advice. I mean, you can just look around you. You could talk to your spouse. You could you could even talk to your team members and see, what interests align and start to. It doesn't cost anything to ask people's opinion, right?
Absolutely.
What's another of your favorite tips from the book we haven't talked about?
Favorite tips from the book that we haven't talked about. Well, let me think here. Okay. So one thing that we talk about is, we've talked about having your business ready to sell, and many business owners are like, well, yeah, but I don't have any plans of selling. So why would I worry about it? So something else that we talk about in the book is the benefit of having your business in sell ready condition, even if you never plan to sell it. And why is that important? Well, if you do the things to a business to make it attractive to a buyer, if you have your financials in order, if you have an operating system, if you've done the owner exit process, if you you've done all these things, profitable, everything else, what that means is that your business is you're probably working less and making more money than if you hadn't gone through the steps. So the wonderful thing about having your business in sell-ready condition is just like staging a home. Like, you paint, you do carpet, and you do all the things.
Stay ready. You got to stay ready.
You stay ready, but then you look around going, this house isn't half bad, right? I'm glad I did all that sprucing up. Now I don't want to move. Same thing I see with businesses. I see business owners come to me, we want to sell. We do all the things to get ready to sell, get the business ready to be sold. And then they look around and going, well, heck, I'm working half as much and making twice as much money. And why would I sell now? Maybe you don't. And we've had that happen. We've had clients who've decided not to sell after they get their business ready to sell, because everything you need to do to get ready for sale is the stuff that you should be doing in your business anyway, but you don't usually think about it and you don't have that checklist and process to make it happen. So that's something very important to think about.
Are there any like resources? I'm just thinking for people who are listening out there, if they want to, like, is there like a platform for learning who's interested in selling and buying, or is there any recommendations you have to just people to start learning more about like what's out there and what their potentials could be before they talk to an advisor? Or is there any?
It's interesting. There's not a whole lot. It's a very fragmented world out there. If we relate it back to the house thing, you can go to Zillow, and Zillow is kind of the one-stop shop for kind of sorting some of this stuff out and whatever else. The closest thing might be like bizbuysell.com. That's really focused on smaller businesses under a couple $1 million. But it's a very fragmented world out there. There's not a lot of, in single source, like this is where you go to get all the information you'd want to know about, how to value your business or anything else. I really like that, you have, we're talking about this topic on your podcast and, finding a good source of information that way. Obviously, using we talked about AI. AI can actually give you a lot of information. I think it was about 4 or 5 months ago, we had our first client that came from AI because they were asking AI questions, and the AI said, "You need to go talk to Westbound Road," and it sent them to us, which was kind of fun. And it's the first time we've had that happen because you can't like buy your way into AI like you can Google.
Well, you can impact it. It's called AEO. So there's SEO.
Yes. Well, I now know
AEO,
that. Yes.
And now GEO, and I do it for clients all the time. Impact how you're found and searched for.
Exactly, and we've now learned that, but we had done nothing actively. To make that happen, and it organically happened, and we're like, well, that was cool. How do we make that happen? And we learned about that stuff. So I will warn you though, if you go to AI and start asking it questions about your business and selling your business, AI has a propensity to tell you what you want to hear.
Yeah, echo chamber.
So
we call that.
It is an echo chamber. Yeah. And so don't believe everything it says. We've had a number of clients or potential clients who've asked AI for valuation of their business, and it's rarely accurate. Interestingly, it's almost always overly optimistic.
It's like your mother telling you that you're the best.
Oh my gosh, it really is. It's like, yeah.
And my mom told me that I'm worth more than that. It's like, okay, well, she's your mother.
Yes, and your personally trained AI is the same way. We've really noticed a trend in this, and so don't take it as gospel truth because it they call them hallucinations or whatever. But I think it's literally just it trying to please you. But you can at least get some good information in the steps and the processes and what should you do and everything else. But for a true valuation, if you go to AI for a true valuation, it generally tends to be very overly optimistic and doesn't always consider it can see the data, but it can't always read the market, and it can't think how a buyer is going to think to really figure out what that's going to look like. But it's a great place to start.
Absolutely. And I'll give everyone a little tip. So if you notice, maybe, I'm not sure, Marty, which AI you use, but on ChatGPT recently, now it started telling you kind of little information. So it'll be like, you'll be asking a question and then it'll pop up like, I'm going to open the Python script and I'm going to evaluate the formatting of this document. Oh, the user asked for this. I'm going to think about that. And you're watching it. It's almost like it's thinking and you're watching it. They added that in to make it more human, so it doesn't seem so easy it seems like your questions even harder. The AI is thinking about it.
Interesting.
To make you feel smarter, right? They've slowed it down. Like the answers to everything is so rapid that even when they populate it on the screen, they slow that down,
right? So
that it's like human, but it's like available like this,
right?
So that's all intentional to make people like slow down and make them think they're smarter.
Interesting.
Even
wow.
the AI
I have noticed that, but I didn't think about the why.
Yeah. Yep. It's human, and also to slow down for like how fast people can type and can request command too.
Right.
But
right.
All those things are just kind of the human conditioning, right? Of these new tools. But
yep.
I definitely think
conditioning us also what's next.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, this has been great. So what's next for you? Are you writing another book? Or you have any master classes? Tell me about what's next for Marty.
No master classes really. I'd like to write another book. I did this one with a co-author, Fahncke, and who's a great guy, and he helped me fulfill my dream of finally getting a book out there after 20 something years. I will say that Fahncke is ill. He's battling potentially terminal illness. And so I am trying to sell as many books as I can to help fund him, because he gets all the money from the books, actually. But it's not a whole lot. But no, I'm on a mission to just help as many business owners as I can accomplish their goal, whether that be exiting their business at the right time to the right person for the right value, or whether that's helping business owners grow through acquisition. We didn't really touch on that, but there's a whole strategy of growing your business through acquisition that we work with a lot of clients doing that. And my years ago I said my vision of retirement is not playing golf, and it's not just doing nothing. My vision of retirement was I wanted to own 10 businesses around the country, and I just wanted to spend time going to each one a little bit and helping them, and then and like driving my motorhome or my motorcycle in between them. My vision's changed a little bit. I don't have an RV. I don't want an RV. They're a big pain, but I do have multiple motorcycles, and I have multiple business, way more than 10. And so I still love visiting with all of the owners of all the businesses that I work with and the presidents, and growing them and helping entrepreneurs grow. And so really I spend a lot of time on the road. I travel a lot, and I'm just trying to help as many businesses as I can, as long as I can. And I love what I do. I'm passionate about it, and I'm excited about it. I just love helping people. So more of that.
Well, thanks for coming and sharing this wonderful knowledge with the community. And we'll put all of the links to how to get a hold of Marty and pick up a copy of his book, Boomers Sell the Business. It's on Amazon. Where else can people buy the book?
Amazon is a good place, and then the right to our website, boomersellsthebusiness.com. There's also an accompanying workbook, and there is actually a video program on there that you can sign up for if you're a business owner and you want to get some of the information more in depth. They can check that out.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much for being here, Marty. And to all my listeners, please join me next week as I interview another industry expert in topics to help you succeed on and offline. Thank you so much for joining me this day, and I will see you next week in the Pixels. Aloha.
I hope you enjoyed this episode of the Covert Code Podcast. If you're loving the insights we share here, don't forget to follow us on your favorite podcast platform and leave a review. Your support helps us reach more digital innovators like you. Share this episode with your friends and colleagues on social media and help spread the word. And if you're in the solar space or just curious about where clean energy is headed, I'm thrilled to announce my brand new podcast, The Solar Coaster. This show digs into the real stories, trends, and challenges of the solar industry, with bold conversations and powerful takeaways you won't hear anywhere else. Follow The Solar Coaster now so you don't miss a single episode. Thanks for tuning in. See you in the Pixels. Aloha.
Hi, my name is Robinson Aquino. I'm the author of The Small Business Money Game, the hidden strategies that turn survival into scale. And I'd like to tell you a little bit about why I wrote this book. Growing up, I was an avid fan of Monopoly. I like to think that I was the best player in our house, but my brother Alex dominated the board whenever he could. And it was one of my first early lessons in economics, what taught me that a game that should be fair, where we all start with the same assets, where we all earn the same income, quickly turns into a game that is quite unfair, a game where the minority owns all of the assets. And as I studied finance and economics, and as I spent the last 12 years working with entrepreneurs, I've learned this money game that we call business is very similar to that little game of Monopoly. In this book, I've written strategies on how to price, on how to manage costs, on how to scale businesses, and more importantly, where entrepreneurs consistently get stuck. I look forward to hearing your thoughts. Game on.